Good morning, everyone. It's Elizabeth from the Best Ever You Network. A lot of you know that I'm writing a book called Percolate, but I wanted to read a chapter from it to see sort of what you think here. Let me do this. How's everybody this morning? Hope you're having a good weekend. We're about to go to basketball. It's my son's last basketball game, and then baseball starts. So anyway, all right, this is called An Aardvark and a Platypus. I recently talked about this on Hay House Radio with Michelle Phillips on her show. And I know this is going to be featured on a couple different websites and then in my book as well. So here it goes. In 2005, I sat with my dad, Jim Hamilton, at Sister Kenny Rehab Center in Minneapolis. He was there recovering from a stroke and subsequent Coumadin-induced brain hemorrhage. It was very unclear during those moments if all of his faculties, such as eyesight, speech, hearing, and so forth, would return. The speech pathologist came into his room and said, "Jim, time for speech therapy. Let's wheel you down to that area," and all that ensued. I'm sure you can imagine the spirits that my dad was in. I think at this time he couldn't even really sit up very well, so the thought of going anywhere for speech, anything, was not real relevant to him at that moment. But now, my dad is around 6'4" and 280 pounds, and he was in really rough shape. I really do think that the last thing on his mind was speech therapy, but cooperation is key in the hospital, so nurses helped him out of bed, into the wheelchair, and down the hall he went. Now, my dad was very smart. He is very smart. When he was in his coma from his stroke, or unable to speak at the other moments, my mom and dad had sort of a code. He would blink twice if he could hear my mom, or he would squeeze her hands if he was in pain. But my mom and I that day were about to learn a new code. So the nurse wheeled him into the speech pathologist's room and was talking to him in this gentle, totally annoying baby voice. My dad could tell. We could tell, found it annoying too. She said something along the lines of, "Okay, now Jim, to gauge your speech capabilities, I'm going to say the letter of the alphabet, and you tell me what comes to your mind first." That baby voice. So she said, "What do you think of when I say the letter A?" And my dad, I think she was expecting like at, a, and, those things from a stroke patient who had that kind of a stroke and so forth happen to him. So my dad looked at her, he rolled his eyes and said, "Aardvark." Now, that was our new code. Like, "Do you think I'm this debilitated and that I've lost my mind too" kind of code, that roll the eye kind of thing. But he played along. So she said B, for which he responded benevolence. Next came the letter C, and his response was courage. Then D was determination. My dad was sort of writing what I now call the alphabet of life, and I refer to it in Best Ever You quite a bit from this experience. I have a thing called the alphabet of life, and it sort of goes like this. What if A, as you were a child, didn't stand for apple, but it stood for attitude? What if as an adult, A didn't stand for alphabet, but it stood for attitude as well? Do you think your brain would retrain? In other words, the negative things that we say to ourselves all the time, if you replace that language with positive language, and I call it a new alphabet of life, so I'll keep reading. But M, when I got to M was for movies, which is his favorite thing, but you could see the power in positive thinking come through. I do believe F was definitely profanity. We blamed it on the drugs. And P was platypus. My dad was saying, "I can and I will," and it was a moment for all of us, and it was a moment of hope, courage, and also laughter, which is so key in these dreadful situations. He had not only had a stroke and 3 brain surgeries and was ill, but through all of it he maintained his wit and humor, and it was his way of telling us that he was going to be okay. So when someone tells me I can't, I go to the walls of Sister Kenny Rehab Center in Minneapolis, and I often want to take the I can't person along for a field trip just to show what people can do with a lot less. When my dad had his stroke in 2004, we spent months in this facility wondering if he would ever speak again, walk again, or even see again. And during those darkest moments, my mom and I would go for what we now call hospital walks. The artwork displayed around the hospital was beautiful, and we would admire it. Then, upon closer examination, we became inspired by what the people who couldn't and had nothing left were doing to make the best of it. The blind were painting from memory. People who didn't have arms or legs were painting with their teeth, painting with their mouth. People even painted with their eyelashes and their elbows. And not just average artwork either, but works works of art. This is the best of the best, and we came to life because of it. We thought that it isn't what you've lost, but what you have left. And just describing them to my dad gave him a will, and really we wanted to thank Sister Kenny for doing that, because it's just beautiful all throughout their facility. So I think, life isn't predictable for the most part, all or really, and life isn't fair. So while you're living live, if you are listening to this, smile. Please, you're alive. And it might not be easy to just roll out of bed this morning with a smile, gratitude, or love for the day ahead, but you might have to learn. The trick is to, what if each night you fell asleep, I'm reading here, what if each night you fell asleep and you spent a moment reviewing the day and giving thanks for all the great moments that you had, and even for those not so good ones. The trick is to still do these things when life gets tough or throws you a curve or twist or fireball. Can you maintain a positive sense of yourself and be positive to those around you in the world under trying circumstances? It's difficult, but with thought, you can focus on positive and not swim in a pool of negativity, stress, or anxiety. It's all in the positive words that you sing. What is your alphabet of life? Thank you for listening. I'm Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, the CEO and founder of the Best Ever You Network, and that was an excerpt from my new book, Percolate, which is due out soon. Thank you.